Hello, welcome to the Swatches live stream. I'm Clint, and this is Diana.
Hi.
And in this episode, we're going to be taking a look at the concepts submitted for the Gothic Monster and Monster Hunter Art Challenge. Before we jump into the actual reviews, though, we've got to go over some announcements, give everyone a couple of minutes to join in live, and also gives us a minute to just double check our stream and make sure everything's looking okay before we jump in. There's a couple of people here live already. Thank you so much for joining in. And if there's any problems you guys notice on your side, audio, visual difficulties, just put it in the chat. We'll keep an eye on it as we go. So the announcements, couple of things if you're interested in getting involved with some of the Swatches activities and events. We are not going to be doing any live feedback for the spring season courses. We generally do, but we're just having to take off the spring in order to work on some of the upcoming courses and other projects we have going on. The self-study courses are always available on the website, swatchesacademy.com, and you can just take your leisure going through them at whatever pace works for you there. We will be adding waiting lists to the website for each of the courses. So if there's a particular course that you're interested in taking and you really do want the live feedback with it, then you can put your name in there and we will notify you whenever we schedule a premium version that has feedback. Additionally, form rendering, form drawing, and character portraits are all in the queue to be recorded, like starting next week. So those will all be out fairly soon. Yeah. Hey, Brandy, welcome. Erica, Ariel, good to have you guys joining in live. Guillermo also just recently wrapped his Intro to Stylization class, and it's got some really good content. Guys, if you're interested in doing stylized artwork, sort of stuff that you see for Warcraft, Hearthstone, even I would go as far as like Valorant, that sort of direction with art, then this is a really golden class to take. We looked around the industry, we didn't see anything that really approached how to do stylization well. And it all starts with how you draw the image. What shapes are you building in on the drawing? Not only just how you paint it, but how you put it together. And Jeremy does such a good job with that. So check out that class. And I recently just finished the character illustration course. So all the lessons are out there now, all the files. And we are running a 15% off discount through the end of March. So if you're interested in picking that one up, you can save a little bit with Hero 15 there. We had our last group went through their feedback version actually today. We just did it a couple of hours ago. And some really outstanding pieces.
They were really good.
Yeah, from the students. We'll probably be sharing some of those at a later point.
Maybe in the newsletter.
Yeah, maybe in the newsletter.
So if you haven't signed up for the newsletter, we don't spam with emails. You can sign up on swatchesacademy.com at the end of the page and just put your email address in there. And we usually send out a monthly newsletter just with news and any discounts that we're running or any coupons, just other useful information that you might want. So just sign up for that if you want to see all that stuff. We do usually repost them on the Academy blog, which is on swatchesacademy.com under resources blog. But they generally get reposted like a month or two after the fact. So once they get there, they're already a bit old. So yeah, I recommend just signing up for the newsletter and you won't get a lot of emails from us.
Yep. Ariel had the question there. Do you get to keep the learning materials and the self-study courses forever, essentially? Yes. Once you register for the course or buy the self-study, it's out there. It's kind of like Netflix. I mean, it's just added to your account in the same way that you would with ArtStation. Essentially, if you bought something on ArtStation, it just gets added to your account and you can go check it out, download it, watch it whenever it's convenient for you. Okay. Please spam. We are probably going to increase the number of emails. We only do like once a month right now, which sometimes gets things a little too late
Yeah,
when
maybe.
people need a little more heads up that things are coming up. So we might increase that a little bit, but no, we're not spamming with emails.
We just don't have the time to spam you.
And form rendering, I do want to call this one out. We might end up updating that cover, but this is a course I had just finished teaching the live version, and this is a really good class that I don't see people covering, which is really about the painting of digital painting. Like, how do you just, when you start going in there to paint something to make it look real and good, how do you do that? How do you make it feel volumetric? How do you balance your values and your colors and get the right kinds of edges? And a lot of it comes back to form and volume and making sure that that's really solid in the painting process.
I think we should probably get on to the challenge. People are waiting for that. So.
Okay, we got 24 people in here. Seems good. If you aren't aware of the challenge and what the stipulations are, I'm going to quickly touch on that. The participants are choosing from this provided list. So it's a list of 8 different pairs of characters, and they are to illustrate only the characters. No backgrounds for these. And they are inspired by Gothic. How do you spell choose correctly? Misspelled that.
Whoops.
Oops. Okay, this is what they have to go through. Pretty slim briefs.
They're inspired by Gothic horror, monsters, and stories. The idea is to kind of take some visual cues from that source of inspiration, and also to, it's implied that the monster and the hunter should go together, right? That they're a pair. And that they should go with their environment, whatever that environment is. You didn't have to draw it or anything, but it's implied, let's say. So that's mainly what we're looking for.
A few prompts were given, just an example of them needing to be put together side by side when they're submitted, and no backgrounds, although the background could be white or like a gray. We just didn't want flashy effects sort of stuff. And minor props, such as a little box like this with the character, would be acceptable, but nothing more than that. Okay, so this episode, we are only going to be looking at the concepts. So this is the concept stage. There'll be another live stream in 2 weeks when we'll take a look at the finished versions of these. So I want to go start.
I just want to add that I don't think we made these prompts public. I don't think we did.
No, we have not yet.
But what we'll do is after the next session, after the final, we'll put this prompt list with the other challenge files on the Discord for everybody to access. So if you want these prompts, you want to use them to design your own characters, we'll make those available to you after the last challenge stream.
All right, there were 12 tickets and we have 12 submissions. So everyone who got a ticket joined in. That's great. We're going in no particular order here. Just whatever they came up there on my screen alphabetically, I guess. And if you are here live in the chat and we're looking at your art, feel free to make comments in the chat. If you have questions or want some clarifications, anything like that, let us know. We'll keep an eye on it. Okay, so this one, as with all of these, we're going to be giving feedback from 2 different directions. One is we're going to sort of give feedback as art teachers and just technically how could you improve the drawing? How could you make this look better? Then we're also going to be touching on the art director's side. These challenges are ways to mimic doing a commission where you're working from a brief and you're getting feedback. So if this was a client project, perhaps what would the client or art director give you as feedback? Right? Okay. In this case, this is by Augustin. I can close this out for now. I don't think I need For this, the character especially is quite well done, as is the creature. The drawing is good. I can see a clear background in sketching characters. There's a good dynamic lines in the character. Feels like it has a very natural sort of gesture to it. And the idea of a Frostcoat tracker, trying kind of keeping them as a I want to say that there's like a Native American aspect to them, which makes sense for a Wendigo, which is generally a very northern sort of folklore creature. Feels really good. The Wendigo is where I get some.
We had to blur. This is a family friendly show, Augustin. So it's not that we are particularly sensitive. It's just that we want the show to be accessible to all ages, and it was kind of on the border of what we could let slide, so we decided to just pixelate it a little bit for the audience. In terms of your Wendigo, like technique wise, I think it's well drawn. Your anatomy is good. I think it's a neat idea. It's veering a little bit on the human centipede kind of look.
Yeah, it leans more into body horror rather than necessarily Gothic monster.
So it looks like if I didn't know anything, like, ignoring the text and the prompt, if I didn't know, I would look at that and think, oh, that's like some kind of experiment gone wrong.
Yeah.
Like these people were kidnapped, they're in a lab, and then some kind of crazy, doctor put them together this way. I think where it disconnects for me is that creature doesn't really look like a creature much. And I don't think it matches your hunter or the environment. They kind of don't go together to me. This is just, an opinion, but that's my opinion. I think that the hunter looks great, goes with the environment, has the right vibe. The monster is just where it went a little off for me.
Yep. I don't have any real notes for the tracker. I think the tracker works very well. I feel like his costume was really thought out. It's balanced quite well. We have large, medium, small shapes. You're controlling the color scheme and really following the sort of 60-30-10 basis for the colors. Most of it is sort of neutrals and grays with a little accent red color in there. Balances out really well. It's good to see Hedwig got another, occupation besides just delivering the mail.
Got another gig.
Yeah. But this is where we're going to give you kind of split feedback. You're not being held to anything here. You can do whatever you want for the challenge. But this is a scenario where if you say that this is a Wendigo, there's already a concept of what a Wendigo should be, right? And sometimes you want to play with the creative leeway there, but you can't go too far that it starts looking like a totally different thing than what people would expect for a pre-existing creature like a werewolf. If you did a werewolf and you did this guy for a werewolf, you'd be like, it's too far. I don't see the werewolf there. I'm getting a bit of that for the Wendigo as well. Okay. Any notes on the tracker? Did anything stand out to you that needed to be tweaked, or could you improve anything?
I would, this is a really minor thing. I'm just nitpicking you because it looks really good. Okay, there's nothing wrong with it. But when I first saw it, on my first glance, the head read a little bit female to me. The body looks masculine. But I feel like maybe the brow bone area or the eye area is perhaps even the mouth. They're just maybe not masculine enough. I would try to butch it up a little bit, but really minor stuff. It's a question of millimeters because it's a face. But that might just be me. It's neither here nor there. I think it looks great as is. And if I look at it for a few minutes, I can tell that it's meant to be male. But if you wanted to reinforce that, I would butch up the face maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, a little less of the sharp features, a little fuller. Yeah. Well, that's our notes for you. I hope that is taken as constructively as possible. Some really solid sketching here, and
yeah, your skills are awesome.
Yeah, really good. And the presentation, like the inclusion of just the soft trees and stuff back there. Anything more than that would be distracting, but that's kind of nice just to set a tone.
No, I mean, I've got nothing bad to say about your skills and your presentation. Yeah, very good.
Okay, next we have Kurt. Kurt, if you're here, let us know. I don't know if you are or not. Kurt's been around in our classes before, so it's good to have you back and doing some more challenges. Okay, here you are doing the. Oh, where's my?
I can't remember the names of these creatures. Which one is it?
The Ashen Lich, and the Flamekeeper Chaplain. I'll put it up there so I can see it.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Okay, so this Lich character is kind of a necromantic. They're using dark magic basically to extend their life. And these fit the bill. I like this. Good variety here. The sketching is very good. Nice gesture. I feel like this has a good level of rendering for a concept. And you are doing a lot with the basic poses. Expressing the character well through a lot of this. For me, I'd lean towards these two. This starts getting me kind of a different vibe.
It's getting a little bridal almost.
Yeah. So I suggest going for one of these two. The basis of what you have here looks quite good. When you get into the rendering of it, consider trying to add another layer of smaller details, textures. We really need that because what we have is just a lot of kind of large, flat things.
We have the large and the mediums. We need the smalls in there.
Yeah, it's kind of as small as you get as some of this stuff, but we need more things, perhaps that level. Is there more kind of jewelry, or could there be, wraps of fabric and there's pieces of it kind of hanging off, or could there be multiple pieces of, things coming off of each one of these? We just need some smaller stuff with them so that when you paint it up, you're going to have layers of details to take a look at. So, both of those feel good to me, but that's what they need. Down here, which one of these are you drawn to? You think is the most successful?
I feel like the middle one really has the vibe for me. The first one is okay, but he feels a little plain compared to the second one. The second one looks like he means business,
Yeah.
The third one I think has a cool design. What's off for me on this one is the gesture, like the pose. So just in general, for everyone, just avoid when you do a pose on a character, avoid hiding the limbs, whether it's an arm or a leg, because at first read it looks like she only has one leg, like we can barely see that. So I'm not opposed to this design. I think it's cool. If you did really like, if this one is your favorite, the girl, I would just change the pose and put, change it so we could see the other leg, and also be careful of, again, kind of concealing the arm behind this lantern. Like we just want to see more of the, more negative space in here, just to get a clear read of what the body is doing.
That's what's happening, is everything is just becoming part of the same body silhouette, where the hand, the gun, the arm, the lamp, and the leg are all hidden within just the shape of the pose. These work better in that way because the arms are separating out, the weapons are separating out. This is held out in front. There's clearer separation of the limbs away from the major body frame.
It just gives it an easier read at first glance. What do you
The
think?
one in the middle, yeah, is the one that really just gets my attention the most. So that feels really nice. I wouldn't mind seeing some of the details of the others brought over. Like there's some really nice detail work on the design of that maybe would help elevate this guy a little bit. So consider that sort of thing. And I don't know. I feel like it would be nice to see a face, maybe not totally cover the face.
Maybe give us an option with the
Yeah.
face uncovered. Like you can just duplicate them and then uncover the face. Also, just be aware, I'm noticing here like lots of these little shapes. This is good. This is nice. But then we've got, again, lots of big blocky areas with nothing. Like consider adding like little spikes here or somewhere here, on something, just to add some tertiaries into these really plain areas. Also, don't forget, your dirt pass and your wear pass and all that when you get to the rendering. I think that will make it really good.
Yep. Good choices here, Kurt. It's clear that you've been keeping up with your drawing because these have some really dynamic shapes and forms to them. On a great path with these. Next up is by Abraham.
Abraham, if you're here, let us know in the chat.
Okay, some really solid stuff here. Also going with the Wendigo and Frostcoat Tracker. The Wendigo definitely feels like a scary sort of folklore monster. It's part human, part animalistic. Some really good stuff. Let me pull up a little bit if anybody wants to see some of the... I'm sorry, there was just a...
I feel like the dryer is running by itself. Excuse me for 1 minute.
Some odd noise coming from the other room. We just need to go figure out what that is. Okay, so on this, the Wendigo is looking nice. The poses also, these two in particular, are working really well for that. If we were to do some work with the Wendigo, I would keep it fairly minor because it is already working well. The main thing that I would be suggesting is that we're getting a fair amount of skin through like this, and then it looks like we've got some skin through here and here, but it's totally non-skin for all of the limbs. They're just straight skeletal. Try to find a medium between these so that it feels like it's more consistent overall. Could we get some skin that's sort of connecting across here, or part of the forearm is still having skin on it and some of the bone is revealed during different pockets? Part of the tendons or skin still on the hand, or maybe there's pieces of it kind of hanging off the arm, right? Really make it ugly. But what that's going to do is just tie these more consistent to each other. Okay, other things is maybe going more. I think it's catching me is just like the little loincloth. I get why it's there, but is there another way that we could approach it so it's not just the triangle loincloth?
Could just do some fur.
Yeah, you could have it just starts having fur, and it follows sort of a pattern going up, maybe the belly area, and you get more fur on the legs. I mean, we have a lot of fur up here. Could it just have some fur hanging down, and then kind of what we have over here, right? Maybe we have some extra fur kind of draping off of the lower leg there, just so it's continued on a little bit. That would be a nice way to approach it. Or you could go, I think even if you just scaled up the loincloth, so like maybe you had some hanging in the back that was longer and this front piece was longer, just so it didn't seem so tiny.
The loincloth is protecting it from the blur. The pixel. Well, it is kind of strange for the monster to be wearing clothes, right? I mean, that's kind of the thing. And I get you want to keep him decent, so that's where we're thinking of like the fur situation, where you can kind of cover that area, but not necessarily with clothing.
Yep. Frostcoat tracker. Some good options here. I feel like the best thing to do is actually merge some of the elements between the two of these. Nice pose here, that's fine, having it up across the shoulder, but the rest of it feels a little too static, a little too mannequin.
Feels.
This one feels better in that way. So if we could tweak this, I'd go ahead and get his feet a little wider like they are over here. That feels a little better. And what can we have this hand do? Even if it is doing this and he has like a thumb looped in the belt, it's going to be a little more interesting than just hanging at the side. Or could he be holding the cord with the compass on it, right? So like he was just checking the direction and then he's just holding on to it.
Or he could have a rope on his belt or something, holding on to like a rope or something. Yeah.
Next up, let's talk about some of the design. I follow the idea, and I like the idea that he's got a big fur mantle on, right? Cloak. Makes sense. But you're going to be painting a lot of fur. This is just going to be fur on fur on fur on fur on fur. I think it'd probably look better if you went a little more this direction where you had some
Just
of the
kind of
cloth.
alternate the materials, because what happens is, again, for everybody, when you make a costume and it's the same material in large chunks touching, it's going to end up just looking like a mass once you render it. So he's going to just look super furry everywhere. So you might want to consider kind of doing what you did here and bringing some of this leather or I don't know what it is, like felt, leather, fleece material, whatever, and putting it on these sections and letting the cape be fur. Or you can kind of do it the other way and let maybe these pieces be fur and the cape be, something else, not fur, like a pelt, hide, or leather, something like that.
Yep. If it was me, I would probably just go with this guy and maybe let some of that cape hang down sort of asymmetrically, and that would look nice. Overall, I think that's maybe a little more well balanced and closer. If you do go with this guy, I am going to suggest we edit this belt that's going across there. He's got that. Because we see it doing this, it gives the impression that his chest kind of sinks in. That's really flat. So to help sell the form of the character, we want to arch that up. Make it feel like it's going up and over this guy's big barrel chest, right? Getting that sort of thing. Okay. There's a few suggestions for you. Hopefully that helps you out a little bit, gives you a few ideas.
It's really beautifully drawn.
Yeah. Good concepts. Okay, this is from Bass.
I think Bass is here in the chat. Possibly.
Okay, yeah, if you're here, Bass, let us know. Also, if I'm saying your name right. Something will show up there. Okay. All right, this one you're doing the silent doll maker and the doctor. The silent doll maker is a person / monster that creates porcelain-faced dolls that they can control. And the doctor is a guy who has clockwork electric items that he can use to disrupt the magic of the doll maker. Okay. I am getting the impression that this is the one you're most interested in because it's like by far the biggest.
It's the larger one. Yeah.
And this seems like pretty close to the same guy. We've got the wheel here for generating the electricity. I'm going to skip on that idea. I'm not against the idea of like he has something that he uses to generate electricity, but just by putting that on his belly and having this big round shape that's kind of on his belly, it's just awkward for a hero type character. So this one is a little more streamlined. I sort of like that. Although the tails on this does add for a chance for like some cool action.
You could bring that back
Movements, yeah.
into the second one.
So over here, the Silent Doll Maker, something that is...
You have to scroll down there. Yeah.
A gaunt, airy figure who animates dolls with porcelain faces. I don't know that that's what comes to mind for me. Again, this almost starts getting into the combined human bodies sort of thing. I'm not sure what's going on with the legs and that it can walk. I don't know. There's a lot going on with it, and I would consider taking out one of the pairs of arms because it's just a lot of arms. There's 8 arms.
That says, I was thinking of putting the pose of the first on the second. What's the pose of the first? I think this pose is a good pose. Let me just read the description again here. I feel like your instinct was right here to put the doll in the hand. I think this could work here. Just be sure that the dolls look very obvious like dolls.
Mm-hmm.
I would consider going more in the direction of like a baby doll or like a doll, a full-size doll. It's kind of unclear what these are at first glance. So I would try to make them more obvious. And then the lantern, I don't know if it would really be clear what the connection is.
Yeah, I don't think that is as clear. I like the idea more that there are strings or like needles, like she's sewing them up.
Oh, Baz was talking about the doctor, putting the pose of the first on the second one.
Oh, on the doctor.
Oh, sorry about that. I misunderstood you. The pose of the first one on the second guy.
I do think the second pose could be improved. We just kind of have every limb sticking off.
The first pose is more interesting,
yeah.
Granted.
Here's what I suggest for the doll creature. This feels like a V1 right now, where there's the idea of the creature there, but it feels like it's not quite cohesive yet. I don't know if this is supposed to be like a male creature or female creature. It does matter, especially if you get into rendering multiple chests that are open. You can very quickly give it this sort of sensual aspect to the character that may not be intended. I look up here and I actually feel like there is a direction here that could work. And I've seen other people do characters along this sort of idea that there's this kind of maybe a grotesque body underneath this cloak, right? And you've got these long tatters of cloth kind of hanging down. And this thing is so ugly and sort of grotesque that it creates these beautiful little dolls. Like it's the opposite of them, right? And it wears this beautiful porcelain face that's
creepy,
just at odds with what it is underneath.
So you had kind of that idea started here, but you didn't go quite so
and then
far.
Out of these robes, you just see a mess of arms are all sticking out and doing different things.
This is just a suggestion of an approach. We're not saying you have to do this, of course. But it would make... We're saying this because we're thinking about what would make a more cohesive design or interpretation that would go with the hunter. The hunter hunts this thing I mean, if it can't get up, if it's just laying on the ground,
Yeah.
probably easy to hunt it. So anyway, some food for thought. I would consider changing the pose. That's, if it were mine, dropping a couple of the arms and making the dolls a lot more obvious.
Now, Noah mentioned here maybe incorporating some doll body parts for the monster.
Oh, that could be good.
Now, in that direction, it makes me think of basically what would be the monster version of Pinocchio, right?
Oh, yeah.
If
a good
this
idea.
doll started like adding other doll pieces to it, and it became bigger and it had more limbs, and it starts animating things to do work for
Well,
it.
I don't want to overwhelm
No.
Baz with concepts. We're just talking about interpretation of something that could go with this, that could merit a hunter like this. So again, we looked at this earlier, which is the idea of designing these as a pair so that they kind of fit together. So I like the technology better on this guy than on the other one.
These are feeling good. I like that. Watch the drawing on these, where it feels like the body is turned that direction, right? Center line's here, and his legs are going that way, but we're seeing the left side of this, so it feels like that's going the other way.
As well as the back one.
Yeah, and then we're seeing that. So if it was strapped to him, I feel like it would be more the other way.
If he has two straps on the shoulders, then you should be seeing this end of it.
Yeah, if the body's kind of turning this way, and these straps are going like this, right, to follow the body, because it's kind of
just draw the
cylinder
cylinders
like
out.
that, then I don't know. I mean, if he has it at his side over here, but then it would go straight
that
back.
would be one strap, but it's got two, so it's coming out the other side. So it would be another, it would be more like that.
You could do it like this, and then it's like going up over his shoulder. Be more like that. Even if that end was bigger, you would still have something like this. Yeah. So just watch the curvatures on those. Yeah.
Also, try not to, this is something that we do even when we design anything, which is try not to overcomplicate it. So the guy already has a lot of complex technology stuff on him. I don't know that you need mech arms and mech legs on him too. I mean, that will be a lot to balance to make it work. I would consider, if you're pressed for time, to just give him normal arms and legs and just let the machine be the technology. So that's just a suggestion. That's probably what I would do, but if you're really set on those mech arms and legs, then go for it.
Okay, let's keep moving on. We have some other good concepts. Got one by Erica. And Erica is doing the werewolf and the silver lamplighter. Nice combo here. Okay, let's take a look at the lamplighter first. The only notes here is that they carry an extra long rapier, and they have a lantern filled with like supernatural moonlight in order to fight against the werewolf. And some solid pose options there. Yeah, personally, I'm going between the first two, hitting me a little better than the sword being like way back behind the guy. He feels more alert. He feels like he's more wary. Which of the costumes do you lean towards, or different aspects?
I think they all have merit, Erica. The costumes are well designed. They do look believable to me. So I think any one of these could work. I think the first two feel better to me. The third one feels like there's just a lot of elements that I'm not quite sure that they go together.
Yeah.
But these two feel strong. I think either one of these could work really well. If you wanted, to do something that could maybe improve them by 10 or 15%, I would suggest adding something that is unique to each of these guys, like a unique, brooch or clasp on the jacket, or pocket watch that's unique, maybe like with a rosary on it or something. When you are rendering these in your final, make sure that, again, there's some kind of texture or material variation, because we've got a lot of just big plain sections, right, with not a lot of tertiary information. So if you can add some stitching, some seams, different material or panels in here, or some trim to the coat, or whichever one you choose, just try to keep that in mind.
Yep. I kind of lean towards this guy because I think the coat really gives him more presence. And look for opportunities to break up some of that, like she said, with like a brooch. I also feel like we could have maybe some buttons or something down here. Little metallic pops are a good way to break up areas like this.
Just think of some tertiaries that you could add. It doesn't mean like filling every area with small detail, but just some here and some there, a sprinkle of it is good to do. Okay,
I would go with the pose of one of those.
Let's look at the werewolf. I think these are good designs. Like, this is what I would consider a satisfying classic werewolf. This is what you expect. I think if you wanted, in terms of the design, if you wanted to expand and give yourself, or if you were doing this for a client, give potential options, is to think about, well, if you're going to do three variations, maybe one of them could be a little bit more towards the wolf, like more towards like 90% wolf or something, and then the other one could be more towards the man, where we get more of the human anatomy kind of coming through, and that way you would have more of a range.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Of potential, possibilities.
Especially if you're working with the client, you want to give them a variety of options that all exist within the normal expectation. So in this case, on one side, you'd have a design that would be more man, like she's saying, versus the other side that is much more wolf. You see very little man left in it. Or you could go, and you can look at several factors of, like, is it really thin and emaciated? Like, this thing's starving? Or is this thing really muscular?
Like Hulk.
Yeah, it's just a lumbering beast. And then maybe, like, how beat up is it? Right? Does it look like it's a fresh wolf that just turned? Or is the thing scarred and kind of bloodied and stuff? You have these different factors. You can think about where it is on the scale, and you make it a version that's on each end of the scale. Yeah, I was noticing that as well from the comment there, the different shapes of the head. This one, very wolfish. We're getting a lot of the features and the wrinkles and stuff. Over here, more skull-like. And over here, it's still skull-like, but it's almost more bat. It feels like with the ears. I'm leaning towards, like, if I could just pick one, I'm going to pick that one as being
the more wolfy one.
Yeah.
This is one where you could actually justify the loincloth, You could, because he might still be tearing out of his clothes, right?
On a lot of games, you'll just see that they add, like, extra long hair that hangs down. It happens like people do that all the time.
Yeah, they have to put something there.
And yeah, you just add extra around a few other places, so it's not a one-off. Or maybe they have extra long hair that like comes off there, right? And that way it's kind of a consistent thing throughout the character. Okay, next up we have some sketches by Garrett. Garrett is working on the Blood Revenant, who is a vampiric sort of character.
It's basically a vampire.
Yeah, of a, what did we say? Slavic noble. Yeah. But really deteriorated in their appearance and their clothing. And then being hunted by the Scarlet Inquisitor, which is a stoic detective with a silver tipped cane sword and a revolver. Oh, let me actually adjust that. These
Yeah,
lines
I'm
are a bit,
struggling to see it. I was going to ask.
yeah, just darken those lines a little bit so that the screen can pick that up better. All right. This is, again, where I'm going to give feedback a little bit from the side of what an art director might say. Valid characters, but I don't know that they fulfill the prompt very closely, because I wouldn't register them as a detective, as kind of a grizzled detective, but rather as, it looks like, a monk or a bishop or something like that.
It's got kind of a pilgrim hat.
Yeah. So I'm not saying you need to change it, but be aware that that there is a difference here in that what the expectation would be.
I like the inclusion of the accessories. Like, you were very attentive to include all the things that the character would need to have. So that's definitely good. You've got the cane. You're checking all the boxes. I would, on the subject of design, like Clint said, I would rethink making it so monk-like. Like, there could be some aspects of it that are, but I might reduce the monk outfit a little bit, and I think you'd be closer to the detective with just a slight religious, tint to it. On the subject of, still on these guys, I think the poses do what they need to do on a technical level. If we're just going to address that, I think that some of the proportions are a bit off in the size of some of these hands, the length of the legs for the size of the head. So you might want to
double check your anatomy. Reference.
Yeah, your reference, just to see that it's okay to make the legs a little bit longer than normal. It's better than making them shorter, because if we make them shorter than average, we get into almost dwarf proportions. But if we make them a little bit longer than average, it still reads okay for
more acceptable.
Yeah.
And I suggest that if a character has a hallmark weapon, like they're known for this weapon, is the silver bladed cane sword, that we probably need to feature that a little more. This one just hints at it by popping the end up a little bit, but what would be more effective is if this hand was holding it and he had pulled it out that far, and the other hand he was unsheathing it, right? And that would give him something to do with his hands and really let us know, oh, that's a sword in there, and not just an odd shape to the pommel of the thing.
If that's something you want to explore. Yeah.
Okay, over here, 1 and 2 feel more interesting and in line with the prompt. Number 3, we'll always have to keep in mind and try things from other directions, 100%. But I feel like it's not as developed, or maybe you didn't have enough time to develop it. I don't know the situation. But I don't find it as engaging as the others. So between 1 and 2, there's some good design choices here. The hats and the hair coming down, this sort of thing. The really vampiric looking face, this expression. And there's a lot of nods in this to that sort of Slavic noble attire. Pose-wise, I think it could be tweaked to get a bit more out of it. So I say that because of a couple of things, and we talk about this even in the other class, which is we're getting a lot of the body just absolutely straight to camera, right? There's no turn at all. And when there's no turn at all, it has a tendency to make the character look flat, right? There's no volumetric sort of angles to anything. So that's flat. This is sort of flat to camera going sideways. Same thing with the leg. Could happen in real life. Obviously, somebody could stand straight to the camera like that. But I think with a simple turn of the body, maybe letting the arm not be at direct side. If the face had a bit of a turn and they're kind of looking back at the camera a little bit, that would be a little more engaging, a little more three-dimensional. So we're just trying to give some suggestions of what would push it a bit, which wouldn't be like a redesign, right?
No, I want to point out just for everyone, this is something that's super common. We see it a lot, and so we always point it out to our students, which is be careful when you're picking a character pose to not tuck in your elbows.
Yes.
It's a common thing. People just draw the characters with the elbows tucked in, and it makes them look really stiff and kind of not as effective or natural.
Yeah, more weak.
Yeah, so when possible, push them out. So let the arm just come out. You know, this guy, just let the arm come out and hold this head like this. Doesn't have to be glued to his body. So that's just a simple thing you can do right away, and it will make a significant improvement.
Mm-hmm. So for this, I would not want to just spitball the pose change. I would just go pose in front of the camera and take a quick picture. Everybody's got a camera on their phone. So, yeah, just figure out what the pose you want, take a picture, do an anatomy sketch based on that, then add the costume on top of that anatomy sketch, and you should be good. Okay, let's close that out.
All right, so that was the Blood Revenant. What is next?
Julia gave us the
Hollow Siren and the River Warden. She gave them names.
Yeah, we didn't actually have names. This is Helen and Joseph, I suppose. Okay.
Julia, if you're here in the chat, let us know.
Yeah. Some really solid concepts of these. The River Warden, this is very close actually to what I had kind of in mind and put together the briefs. Mm-hmm. He looks like the sort of guy you would see on the dock.
Yep.
Right? Working the boats along the river. And I like the way that that's going. I'd say lean into that. There's nothing wrong with this guy, but he just doesn't read as nautical to me.
This guy looks more sailory.
Yeah.
It's good.
It would be nice if we could feature the harpoon a little more. Because if I just saw that, I don't know if I would register it as a harpoon gun. Again, we're not saying you have to make the changes that we suggest. We're just trying to give you ideas of
it's just
things could do.
Part of the feedback, right? You're all free to take it or leave it, as you want to.
Yeah. So consider like if it was coming out here and he had the butt down on the ground and he just had his hand on it, right? And then you had the point up here and whatever you want the design of the harpoon gun to be. But if we put it out in front, then it feels a little better. Maybe he could have almost like a quiver with extra harpoons on them, or some other weapon for like grabbing things, or a net or something.
A hook or a net.
Yeah. And that would just get another cool piece out in front to see. All right, we chatted a little earlier before the stream about the monster, in this case, a sort of ghost apparition.
A ghost.
What's the thoughts there? How do we step this up? What's some things to be aware of?
Well, it's the description is a a ghost in a tattered Victorian gown, her haunting song luring the victims to a watery death. So I think about, someone enticing, luring people in. I think of, beauty, attractiveness, but also kind of spooky. I think you've got some good ideas in terms of the silhouette and the hairstyle, at least more on this one. You've got a good sense of Victorian shapes, so those look like they're in the right vicinity. This jacket and these sleeves. Okay. I think they're looking a little bit matronly. So they're looking a little bit grandma more than alluring. I would do a ball gown, I would do a Victorian ball gown. I would see more skin. I don't know that I'd have her buttoned up all the way to her neck. I would show maybe the shoulders or just maybe some of the chest and then, the neck. So something like this, you could still have the sleeves. That's okay. And do something like a silhouette more like this.
Somebody who got drowned from in their ball gown when they were really looking good,
something like that, and so forth. So something like that, or you could even have the shoulders.
Yeah, I've seen those before as well.
And you could have the sleeve coming out here. I would consider doing more with the hair, maybe getting it a little bit bigger. Or if you're going to have it down, I would just let it get really wet. I don't know that I would have it that long, but because she drowned, right? So kind of having the hair coming down like this. So just some things to think about if you really want to push that. Also would have been nice to see the face.
Yes.
The face on the ghost is important. I know it's a ghost, but we still want to see, are there any eyes? Are they just hollows? Is the face really thin and emaciated? Is it kind of a Tim Burton, dark under the eyes sort of thing?
Yeah, or is she still so beautiful that she's, luring people to her?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do we get some kind of smoke effect?
Well, I was going to mention that as well, which is think about how you're going to bring in the apparition aspect of this character. Is there anything that you could do in the design that would help lead to that? I've seen some people do this too, and I think it's a valid thing to try, which is literally the cloth just goes off and there's nothing underneath, right? It's like she literally ends in
it's
just cloth.
A wisp.
Yeah, and there's just pieces of wisp that hang down. Then that's a nice nod to, okay, this is a ghost, right?
Or you could make her even more gross, have seaweed hanging off of her, and maybe some of her is bone, if it's the ghost of a rotting corpse, So that's why we do these concepts. So there's a lot of avenues to explore in terms of how you can interpret this, to tell the audience what they're looking at, what happened to her, who is this, right? So we're just trying to give you some ideas, maybe some sources of inspiration.
I can't remember what show. I watched some show where they had a ghost, and I remember something about the design that the hair of the ghost was always floating. They were still underwater. The ghost was always underwater. So all their stuff floated all the time, even if they were above ground. And it was a nice visual. I don't know how well you could sell that in this if you wanted to go that way. But
that might work better when it's animated, right? In a still image.
Yeah, it might just look like she's in a windstorm. I don't know.
Well, it's something to consider anyway.
Yeah.
So overall, good job, Julia.
Yes.
Going in the right direction.
Yes. Okay, Nicholas is up next, and let's see, who did you do?
Nicholas is here.
Okay, Nick, you're also doing the Ashen Lich and the Flamekeeper Chaplain. Also, good directions here. Not only just did the two, but you did them with more finish. We got colors, we got some lighting blocked in on these guys. So some solid stuff here. I'm gonna pull up a little bit so everybody can
There's lots of stuff
get
I
some
like
more
about these.
details. You go in a nice direction with this. I think that we can get these and push them even further and get more out of them, but solid direction here. Not 100% what I'm looking at on that.
It's like
okay.
a ball. A metal ball with fire in it.
Okay, with the Lich, having it floating is a good way to show off that it has like magical powers, smoke stuff. Some of the stuff, I'm not sure what these little things are. Are these crystals?
I don't know that you need those.
Paper. Yeah, I don't know that you need that. I feel like he already has a lot going on. That if you just had him and you had some of the dark smoke or something coming off of him, you're probably good. The book is okay. That's fine. You can give him one major prop. That seems reasonable. Has out there. Now, that said, I do suggest following the direction that you've got, but start with a new anatomy drawing based on a good reference.
Yeah, the design is very cool. You should do this guy that you designed. He's cool.
Yeah.
But we are seeing some just anatomy things that are kind of holding him back.
Yeah, and I want to note a few, not to be mean to point things out, but what is it that we're actually saying that's prompting us to recommend it? So here it looks like that arm is getting small, the wrist is very thin, and the hand is very small in comparison to, say, the head, right? So that feels out of scale. In this pose, I'm taking that the arm is like extending back, like here on the webcam, right? And he's doing this sort of thing. But from a glance, it's hard to read that that's what's happening, and it just looks like the arm is kind of short.
Yeah, I would just bring it forward. Like, I don't know that it benefits from being that far behind him in perspective. Like, you can just bring it forward and have him holding the book.
Yeah, you can have it kind of coming towards camera there, right? And you can have the book maybe opened a different way. And maybe it can be opened more like that, kind of towards us this way, or maybe we see a little more of the back of it. But some variation of that. And when it gets to the legs, if you have somebody floating, most of the time what you want is one leg to basically be straight, and the other leg is doing this.
Like a Superman thing?
Yeah, Superman float, one knee bend. And visually, it just makes a nice shape, better than just two extended legs. Yeah.
I would also lengthen your legs. They look a little short to me for the size of the head.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, he could be longer. It's okay. He's basically a creature, right?
Yeah.
Oh, hang on.
I was just going to look. I was going to note.
I thought you were moving on. I'm like, no, I'm not.
No. We'll circle back to it in a second. I thought I put it in here.
I'm looking for a reference here.
There we go. There was a particular reference I was going to note. Maybe I put it in character designs. You need some character dynamic. Oh yeah, the Vecna, who was the big bad lich in D&D. If you haven't looked at some references for like how they approached this, that might give you some ideas. Obviously, I'm not saying make it look like Vecna, but the way that they added some coloration to the gray skin.
No, make it look like your guy. For this, you can take a lot of inspiration from the proportions, if you want to look at that, or coloration. But you can see that the legs are quite long on him.
Mm-hmm. He still has a good frame to him and everything.
Yeah. So maybe just if you can take some inspiration from that, bring it to your guy to really boost him up. Your flame keeper is very cool. I think it's a great idea.
I like the glowing crucifix. Neat idea visually. I like the pop of that color there. The rest of it, what are you thinking? Anything needs to be edited? Anything standing out to you?
It's not clear to me. This is cool. I kind of get what it is, but it's not clear to me that this is a flamethrower.
Mm-hmm.
I would try to redesign this end here to make it clear that that's what it is. So I would bring more aspects of a flamethrower into this so that we can kind of get a sense of this. Right now it just looks like he's got a staff that has a little bit of fire on top, but it doesn't follow. I mean, I know you have a tube here, but at a glance you really would not think this is a flamethrower.
Yeah, from here, try to add in a bit more mechanical design. I'm not saying this thing has to, be legit, but enough for us to understand. It's probably some more brass technology. So I'm thinking here, like it comes up to this point, could we have some kind of little brass canister, like it's mixing that with something else? And could we have some sort of dial, or could this have like a little pressure gauge or something on it that he could change how much flow? All right, you got to be able to turn it off and on. Like I know he has that one here, but maybe he could change the flow there, and then it comes out. I would glance at that and be like, okay, there's some sort of fuel mechanism end on it, and then can you then, you're going with like the crucifix thing. Could you then incorporate that? Like, does this thing have like a crucifix end on it where it's a little like fire coming out the end of the cross or something?
I don't know if you need to be that on the nose, but
I'm just trying find some way to connect it back to some of the design work that you're getting on the rest of the character.
Could have it on the canister too.
Yeah, something like that would be good.
Well, we'll leave that to you. It's your design, so that's for you to figure out.
Yeah, make sure you're getting some good cloth references. So much cloth on this guide, and look to see how some of the pros are painting cloth, especially white cloth, without it getting too gray. Yeah.
One other thing I would suggest, he's looking super religious right now, which is fine. But I feel like if you want to butch him up a little bit, I would kind of like to see more leather. He just got one strap. I think maybe a couple of straps here would be nice. Maybe he's got a dagger as well that he carries just in case. Maybe he's got a wrist strap, leather wrist strap. It would just, again, make him look a little bit beyond just a bishop or just a religious figure into more of like a hunter, right? So just something to think about.
Yep. Really cool direction. I like where you're going with it. Both of them. Yeah. Okay, Travis Earls, you're up next. I don't know if you're here or not.
I don't know.
Got to let us know if you're here. Doing, obviously, as it says, Bone Colossus and Gravekeeper. So, some really nice drawing going on here with the Bone Colossus. You're going with the idea that this is sort of like all of the skeletons of the graveyard have been pulled together to make what is essentially a scorpion-like thing.
It's a cool idea. I like the scorpion shape. Made of the bones. I think it's cool that it has like that magic flowing through it.
You got the pop of the green. Yeah, visually that works really well against all the desaturated tones of the cloth and the bones. I don't think there's serious changes that need to happen on that. The main thing that stands out to me, and I'm not saying this is a mistake, but make sure that this is intentional, which is the two of these visually don't work together very well. This is coming from what feels like a Dark Souls kind of world where it's realistic and gritty and dark and kind of got a bit of this horror edge to it. And this is on the other side. It's closer to anime aesthetics, where it's just
It's closer to cartoon.
yeah,
It's very round. And I'm not saying that something along the lines of like this, I'm not saying this costume or this character couldn't work with that creature. It feels right now like a style and interpretation disconnect. So it feels more like a raver girl than necessarily a gravekeeper that's hunting that monster. I think you could make it work, but we would need to make it a little more gritty. So bring it down from being so costumey. I mean, I'm not sure what this is. It's kind of reading as motorcycle headlight.
yeah.
So I'm not sure, not a realistic piece, right? So when we're talking about making this feel like it goes a little bit more with that, making it a little bit more gritty, more realistic, removing anything that doesn't feel gritty or realistic, basically, or anything that's too kind of cartoony, right? So again, giving this another pass to see how could we make this look a little bit more worn and realistic, gritty. What could we do with these? Right now, there's a couple of things that are bringing this into kind of a different sort of type of genre, right? And it would be, I'll tell you what it is. It's this, it's these, and maybe also these. I'm not sure. You might be able to get away with those. So if we remove or adapt those pieces into more realistic things, I think you can get her into a more realistic or a more suited place to go with your monster. I mean, that's just how it feels to me. They just feel stylistically like they're different in different
Genres
in different worlds. So might want to think that through. I think the color palette on her goes well. Together, black and yellow and gray looks nice. I would consider, I think the brief said that she's reinforced with iron crosses. I would consider bringing it back to iron. I think that would, again, bring it into a more grounded place than that bright yellow color. But that's just our opinion.
Now, outside of that, my recommendation is if you're doing a challenge like this or a commission, something like that, how you allocate your time is very important. And going forwards is probably a better use of time to do 3, 4, 5 sketch versions of different directions rather than doing one version where we've already tightened it up, where we're doing eye details and we're doing little details. Like everything already has details and shading and color.
I feel like you already committed to this.
Yeah, which is why I feel bad suggesting a significant change, because it feels like you've already committed to it. And that's where it's better to spend time doing a wider selection of options to begin with, so that you cover your bases option-wise, and you haven't invested a lot into any one of them.
Exactly. You can mix and match without having developed any one of them too far.
Yeah.
So that you don't lose time that way. But that being said, you took it to this point. That's fine. You now have the choice to take it from here to finish, or you can consider some of our feedback and try to make some changes before you do that. It's up to you. Overall, good ideas. Your monster especially is really cool.
Yep. Ellie is the next pieces we're going to be looking at. Working at the Abyssal Phantom, which has a very vague, a long, slim, shadowy figure with dark eyes and a long face. And then the silver-tipped cane and spirit-repelling charms crafted by the medium.
I just want to say that I'm really pleased that people chose so many different
Yeah.
ones, because in past challenges people would choose the same brief and then we would end up with like 3, 4, 5 of them that were all the same characters. But this time people really varied
Yeah,
their
actually,
choices. It's very
they
cool.
all got picked. I was just looking at the list to see if there was somebody that did not get picked. No, all 8 of them. Somebody did all 8 of them.
Yeah, that just makes it more fun for
Yeah,
everyone.
that's cool. Good initial read when I glance at these. Very strong silhouettes between the 2 of them. And I feel like both of these are serving as what would be a good base. They need some more development to really make them stand out, be interesting enough for the full illustration, but the base is certainly there. The poses sell the characters, I think, well. And now it's just really how can I add some more design work and details to make these have enough for a second read. And what we mean is, like, if I glance at this character, is there anything else that is there for me to spend any more time than a glance looking at it?
I can pretty much process it in 1 second, right?
Yeah.
And it's great. Like, I love this silhouette. There's nothing, I'm not saying change the silhouette like the silhouette isn't good. I like it a lot. I'd say keep the silhouette as is. It's working super well. But right now, the design is really not much beyond a silhouette.
And hers too, right now, the way that it's blocked in with the gray tone, I'm not entirely sure what all is going on here. It is a little hard at a glance to like separate. I'm not sure what this is because it looks a lot like this, but I'm sure that's not a cane. I can tell that that's a cane. So it does need development there to see that.
And this is something we often tell our students too. It's like, if you have limited time and you're doing a design, it's better to spend that time clarifying your design than attempting to render it. So
Yeah.
if you have a design here with all these little pieces that now are kind of murky, we can't tell them because there was a very rushed attempt at doing some kind of render pass. It would have been better to just see clean lines explaining what all these things are, so then we could actually know what the design is, right? So a lot of the times people think they're helping the design by putting in grays and rendering shading, but that only helps if you can actually take that to a finished state.
Yeah.
So that's just something to think about. Would have been nice to really see more of the design.
What are some of the things that we could consider doing to the Bissell Phantom visually to make it a little more engaging?
I'm sorry. Which one is this?
The bottom one.
Okay. Well, we're not getting much with the anatomy. I think we could do more. We could show, like, does he have some bone coming through? Is it a mixture of like bone and smoke? Is this stuff here flesh?
Well, that's what I was wondering as well.
Or is it some
almost has
kind of goo?
Yeah, almost looks tar-like.
Yeah, is it tar? Is it flesh? Is it goop? Would be nice to have more explanation on that. Would be nice to see more of the anatomy. Is he more skeleton, or does he have more flesh? Does he have any teeth? Is there a nose or just a Voldemort sort of face going on? So.
And since he is a phantom, is any of this translucent? Right? Can you, does the leg or could the leg start fading out? As it goes down, that starts getting wispy, right? Is he stick to the ground when he walks, and then it sort of fades off as he moves, right? We've got to just find some way to add more to it. Is there a hint of any kind of old clothes on him? Could there be indication of just like some chains for some reason wrapping around? Visually, I'm just trying to think of something that you could put on this guy that would just give you some visual information without breaking the overall idea that you already have. Could some of the hair, could you have like this long, kind of stringy hair trailing down the character, right? That would give some sort of visual details. So this is where our mind would go at exploring the same sort of idea in order to build up the development. As far as the medium, I feel like the medium's working good. I don't know what all's going down there. Perhaps some more mystic elements, visual. If there's something that she could have, or maybe she even has a little thing of herbs, or an extra crystal ball inside of a pouch or something. Just visually trying to convey sort of who this character is by more than just the physique.
I would try a couple of, if you have the time. I don't know if you'll have the time, but a couple of design variations just to explore. Right now we're very on the nose, going kind of in a gypsy, direction. It's an old lady gypsy is what we're doing here. And that's fine. That's not wrong. That's what you would think of immediately, right? But then in the description, it says that this is a Gothic inspired brief, and that she has Victorian mourning jewelry. Maybe explore the Victorian aspect. What would a medium in those days look like? A professional medium, maybe not necessarily sort of gypsy attire. You could, but maybe we could do something more Victorian, or we could combine the two in some kind of interesting way. So I'm just trying to feed you some ideas. Maybe if you have the time and you want to explore those for how you could make her a little bit more unique.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, who's next?
Lucy.
Oh, we know Lucy. Lucy's been in several classes.
Yeah.
Lucy, if you're here, let us know.
Okay, Lucy, also working with a bone colossus and gravekeeper. Some really solid concepts here. Looking at the bone colossus, I'd lean towards the one on the right. I think one of the things that stands out to me is this head just feels more monstery to me.
This feels more menacing.
Yeah. This one feels like, I don't know, he's almost lost in thought, like he's counting his skulls to see how many he's got.
He almost looks benign.
Yeah. And this one feels more threatening. Yeah. So I'm going in that direction.
You might want to give him some angry eyebrows, though. Like, not actual eyebrows, but just, change the orbit to make it more angry. No, that's not what I mean. I don't mean actually.
Yeah, to squeeze the orbit
Yeah,
down.
exactly. Sometimes with a skeleton, you kind of need to do that if you're going to make them look more menacing and not so, wide-eyed.
Yeah, you've got a...
We'll just bend the bone in a way that it would never bend in, but it's, it's a drawing.
Mm-hmm. I've seen people, they'll edit it and, they'll build in wrinkles into the bone.
It's fine. It's fine.
You can justify it. Okay. Anything else here? Consider what kind of dirt, decay sort of thing you could add to it. Consider the ideas of still having some flesh connecting parts of it. All right, that would be a good thing.
I would have more of these torn and worn out so that they don't look so intact.
Yeah, let the fabric be really dirty, edges of it just really tattered. You got holes in it. And there might be a couple of pieces that have slightly different colors of, dirt and decay. Is there other things did it climb out of the ground? If it climbed out of the ground, maybe it still has mud or dirt or pieces of roots or something hanging off of it. All right, we're just trying to give it a little history, give it a sense of place. Yeah. These some really good concept, very Similar but different directions with these. There are things that I like about both of these. I think you were saying the same thing earlier as well. So what stands out to you? What are you liking about each of these? And would you stick to one? Would you combine elements of each one?
Okay, I like the pose on this guy better just because there's a couple of weird things with this one where the arms are very far apart and holding this thing in a really odd way that just doesn't feel like you would have your hand all the way down to your knee holding this. So it doesn't feel natural. I'm also just generally not a fan of pointing the knees kind of outward in different directions. It almost creates like a going towards a split, which is not a strong pose typically. So I think this guy's stronger in the pose. I like both of the costumes just right off the bat. I think they're both really cool and they can work as characters just on their own merit, not necessarily even connected to this brief. But I think we both agreed that the top half of this guy is very kind of almost princely. Yeah. It's a little bit too dressy for a gravekeeper. It's a bit fancy. And then this guy just feels more appropriate to the description. So you might want to do this design here, maybe change his pose a bit to be more like that, or you could mix and match and grab like the top half of this guy and put him over here. That might work too. There's a lot of options. Yeah. Also feel like the hammer is getting comically large right over here, which is okay. It can be a really exaggerated weapon, but if you're gonna do that, I would just go all out and make it really long also, so that it's just a big oversized weapon.
Yeah, the handle could be thickened up as well. Kind of the disparity between how big this is and this is a fairly little handle. We can just make that fatter and it just feels more consistent if you're going to go with that really big scale. But yeah, I'm a fan of this. I feel like this has a fantasy flair to it, but is still within the kind of groundedness of being the gravekeeper.
It looks more gravekeeper-y.
Yeah. So, yeah, those are the notes there. Lucy, really good to have you back doing some stuff with us and nice characters.
Yeah, always nice characters from you.
Yeah, the last one we're going to be looking at is from Ariel.
Ariel is here in the chat.
Hey, welcome. Also doing the Feral Wendigo and Frostcoat Tracker. I think that's been the most popular in this challenge. And 2 variations of each here. Okay, let's start with the Wendigo. And you also had a question, so we'll make sure we touch on the question as well. The Wendigo, because it is a monster that people are scared of and they need to send somebody to go kill it, this one does feel more threatening. But I would like to see more consistency of the design. Like if it's going to have a straight skull head, could we also have more of the other part that's skeletal, right? Because right now it's just kind of head pasted on body, like that's normal body.
Heads are all bone, no flesh or anything or muscle. But then the body is like fully covered in fur and muscles and skin, right? So it's kind of odd, like why is there no fur on his head but everywhere else? So if you could, you can kind of bring some of the skin and fur onto the heads. Maybe some of them have more than others. Yeah. And then you could have some of the bones, exposed in different areas if you wanted to do that. I don't know how the back end is something like that. So something to think about is just kind of tying them together more overall. And that might make it more scary also. A little more spooky. And let's talk briefly about the character, and then we'll go to your questions.
Okay. The character, quite similar. These look like basically color variations. I actually lean towards the gray one.
I would say I get what you're doing, trying to color match them to the monster. I would actually do the opposite. I would make them different color palettes so that they are a little bit more separate from each other. So if you're going to do a Wendigo going more gray blue, I would maybe make the tracker's costume a little bit towards the brown or towards the green or something a little separate from it.
Okay, for this, let's start first with the pose. Holding the crossbow, good idea, gets the main weapon front and center. You can see that, understand that they're a fighter or a hunter. However, this is where I run into one of the issues that we saw in another piece, which is we have the silhouette of the body here. Look at the silhouette a little closer. But all of the hands, arms, and weapon are falling within the silhouette of that body. So we've got to let some of the limbs and the weapon break from that silhouette. I think you could get pretty close to doing that by changing the tilt of the upper body. Let me see if I can just tighten that up a little bit. So if we got a little more like that she's just not bending over as far. Hopefully, you can even go up to about there. Obviously, this is a quick edit. You would want to be more thorough.
I would pose for this one in front of like a webcam or something. Take a screenshot and then have a good reference for my pose. Make sure it looks correct.
So there, by doing that sort of thing, hopefully you can just follow along with the basic idea of what we're doing here with the edit. Then we're getting the arm and we're getting the weapon out from the silhouette of the body so that we can read the pose a lot better. And they're more upright, so we can actually change our angle on this a little bit and see a little more of the body. This arm will drop down more, be more of this sort of thing. All right, and that can work. And make sure you're just looking up plenty of references to how to add the textures, details, accessories. Like, you don't have to make up all this stuff. There's actual trackers and characters from games that follow this same line. Just hop on Pinterest and check them out and just say, like, this is within what I've sketched. This is pretty close. This is a more interesting version of the thing that I sketched. So just grab that and apply that to your character.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There were some questions down at the bottom of the page.
Yeah. Question here. First time attempting to render a full human. Hey, you really stepped up to the challenge then. And greatly appreciate any feedback on how to polish it, clarify my rough sketch, proper sense of form and anatomy. Currently feeling a bit overwhelmed even with all the references I collected. It is possible to get into too many references, which is why we suggest just pose yourself or anybody that you know that can, pose for you, and take a photo from the right camera angle in the right pose. If you can match the lighting you have in mind, that's even better, and draw from that. It is better to have one custom-made pose reference than trying to hobble it together from 50 other pictures. Yeah.
And 30 other references that were taken with different lighting, different camera angle, different perspective, different models, different everything, right? That can be a mess. Of course, sometimes you don't have a choice, but if you do have a choice, take your own reference. Okay, the other thing is you were talking about that, about combining references for the Wendigo, struggling to find body, skull, feet refs that match the same perspective. Okay, so this is a problem that I think the solution, there's no quick solution for this.
Yep.
The solution for this is really getting more confident with your drawing ability so that you can turn something to the right angle that you need without having the exact photo. You can have a photo reference, but it doesn't need to be the exact angle that you're needing, that you have the drawing ability to turn that form. So you need to have more confident perspective drawing skills and form drawing skills. And I'm not trying to sell you a class because it's not even out, but Clint did a class he taught last year, I think it was last year, called Form Drawing, and it's about this. It's the basic introduction to this. But you could probably find an equivalent class, probably in the fountain, not a class, but you could find some material about this on how to do this in the foundation group on ArtStation on their store. If you just want an idea of what I'm talking about, a proper class would probably help you more because it does take a lot of practice to actually learn this stuff. So if you are really interested in learning this stuff, if you want to get away from having to find the exact reference every time, if you want to kind of free yourself from that, we recommend taking some time, taking a class about form drawing and perspective, how to rotate objects, and that will really, give you a lot of freedom in your art, and you won't be needing that exact picture for every single thing, right?
Just kind of showing here, like when you start thinking volumetrically about the simple form that things have, then you can turn that simple version of it around in your mind and on the page, and then add the details and the tertiary details back onto it. And that way you don't necessarily need an exact reference, you just need a reference that's close. And the more you know the thing, the more you know anatomy and the forms of anatomy and musculature, if we're talking about like the Wendigo, then the less exact reference you actually need. But it all starts by being able to understand how to do that to the primitive forms, and then build up the complexity from there. And that's really the only way to get sort of unchained from direct references. Yeah.
I think that's everyone. Yeah.
Okay, well, we hope you guys have found that helpful. That is all of the concepts for this live stream. Remember, in 2 weeks today, we are going to have another live stream where we're going to be taking a look at the submissions for the finals. And we will have more art challenges coming up. We'll probably launch one shortly after this one wraps up. And we'll announce more about that, probably starting on the Discord. If you've been on the Swatches Discord, you can just go to swatchesdiscord.com.
Oh, I can't see the chat anymore. Where is that?
I don't know. You clicked something.
Oh, did I? I don't know what I clicked. Let me just go on here and check for a minute.
Yeah, it says it's still going, but I don't know.
Oh, did I stop the stream? Did I stop it accidentally? I think I stopped it.
Did you click stop stream?
I didn't click anything. Can anyone let us know if they can still see us or hear us in the chat? That would be great, since I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, it dropped away half the information that we normally have on that screen. So.
Oh no, the stream has not stopped. We're still on. Okay. I just wanted to check with you guys if you have any questions about anything before we wrap up, because we're done with all the feedback. So if anyone wants to ask us something, you can stop screen sharing probably. Or
no, because I don't have that set up on OBS.
Oh dear. Okay, well.
I don't have a not screen share version.
Oh, never mind then. So we'll stay like this. But yeah, let us know if there's any questions or comments. If not, we'll wrap up.
Yeah, there was a little delay, so we'll give you a moment to type it in if you've got a question. While somebody has a chance to do that, we want to say that we do these challenges as just a way to give you guys a reason to get into drawing, to do some painting, to learn how to work from a brief, and we acknowledge that it is uncomfortable to have your art reviewed, and that we appreciate you trusting us with giving you some feedback
And just
publicly.
putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
It's not easy to just put your stuff out there for everybody to see and get a critique. So I think it's really big of everybody that participated to just do it and be fearless. And hopefully you got some worthwhile input or something valuable from us. If you do have specific questions for the next stream, just, write those down, and we welcome that on the next one. There's a question about how often do we do these challenges?
Well, we try to do the challenges between our live teaching seasons.
So it's been kind of quarterly.
Yeah. We probably will do them more often because we're not doing the live spring courses, so we'll probably run an extra challenge.
Yeah,
through
so
the
maybe
springtime.
maybe right after this one is over in 2 weeks, maybe then we'll announce a new one. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay, so Challenger Space on Discord is the best for more feedback, right?
If you want to get some feedback from the community, yeah, feel free to put that out there. There is a Challenger Space room, if you haven't been on the Discord, for anybody involved in doing the challenge. And yeah, you can put some works in progress out there. Since it's a challenge and not a competition, there's nothing on the line. If you get feedback from other people or people see works in progress, it's fine.
Noah says, it's super hard. When I first got a crit, I'd get teary-eyed. Oh, that's natural. Oh, for sure. I cried, actually just cried during my first art crit. It was horrible. I mean, the crit was nothing that bad, but I was so sensitive about hearing what I'd done wrong. So that's why I know how hard it is. And so if anyone felt sad during their crit, just know that it's totally natural. And the more crits you get and the more you get used to working through your images and analyzing them with other people, that feeling will go away. Question, can I participate in several challenges or should I let other people participate? Hey, this is first come, first serve.
Yeah.
So if you get to the ticket, it's yours. We don't reserve spots, and there's no rule saying there's people who have participated in lots of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But, don't scalp them. Don't just go buy them all and try to, turn them around.
I don't think there's a great
black market
secondary market for these.
Oh man, I made $12 on that one.
We're gonna try to maybe at the end of the year do a big one with real prizes. So we're looking into that possibility of getting some sponsorships, getting some stuff to give away. We want to do that, but until we get there, we'll just do these mini ones just so people.
Yeah, that one would be more involved. There'd be more work to go into it, but the prizes would be good.
Yeah, there might be more rules to that one, right? So we'll keep you posted. Again, like I said, and I'm not trying to nag anybody. If you want to know about this stuff, the best way is to subscribe to the newsletter, because that's where we just dump all of our news every month. And we don't necessarily have time to make social media posts or Discord posts elsewhere. We just don't have time to do all that. So we just put it all in the email newsletter, hoping that everyone will read what they need to know. Is it okay for me to do more of a character concept for a challenge like this? Do you mean like a concept art page, if I understand correctly? If that's what you if that's what you mean, then yeah, it would be fine. When it's in the challenge, in the context of the challenge, we're pretty specific if it's an illustration or if it's concept art. So the expectation is if you participate in a challenge and it's an illustration challenge, that you would produce an illustration. If it's a concept art challenge, the assumption is that you would, lay it out more like concept art.
Yeah. This one isn't real specific in one way or the other. But if you're working more of a concept side and that's kind of what you want to build for your portfolio, then yeah, I don't have any problem with that.
My first art class with critiques was brutal, but it made me improve a lot. Oh yeah, I know. Okay, competing, working with other professional guest artists would still be a possibility? Don't understand that question.
What if we had a big challenge?
I think if we had a challenge that had a prize, if it was like a competition, we would not allow professional artists to compete. And I think that would be unfair.
That, or you'd have to have two categories.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
putting pros against non-pros isn't real fair.
Not really fair. Okay, not a question, but your classes helped me get smaller card art gigs. Really appreciate your lessons. Hooray!
Well, that's great. Good to hear.
Good job, Kurt. You deserve it. Okay. Would it be possible for you to bring in guest artists? Yeah, I mean, we're open to suggestions. If there's anyone in particular that you want us to invite, that would be good for us to know, because I don't know who people want to see. I know Fred Rambeau wants to come back to the channel. We had him on, I think last year. Was it last year?
Really good chat with Fred.
Yeah, Fred actually had some, really insightful things to say. If you go back and watch that, it's on. I don't know if it's under the live or videos category here on YouTube.
Don't recall. I don't remember which one it was.
If you guys haven't seen that one, recommend checking that out. And then for other artists, we'll probably have Zach on at some point. But if there's anyone in particular that you want to see, let us know. I guess that's all the questions that we have. I don't see any other ones. I'm reading these on my phone. Well, that's it.
Okay. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, and we will catch you again in a couple of weeks. Till then, we wish you guys the best.